Hello everyone. This is Amy with Simply Elizabeth Crafts, and today I am going to be sharing a double page scrapbook layout of Maggie May and her squirrel watching. So I'm bringing in the Fluffy Squirrel bundle. It is retired, but that was the perfect set to use. And then also pages or pieces from the Hobby Haven Designer Series paper pack. That is on last chance, just FYI, as of when I recorded this video. So I have different photos of where Maggie's looking out from our living room area and then also our sunroom. So I don't quite know how I'm going to arrange the photos as of yet, but I do kind of know the layout per se that I want. So I'm going to take these photos and kind of just put them in the center for now. And then I'm going to have a piece of the DSP that'll be across the bottom. It'll be on both sides that way. So I'm going to bring in my cutter and cut it down. And I will put the measurements in the description of this video just so that you have those. So I'm going to do two pieces, one for each page bottom. And then there's going to be this little leftover piece, and I'm going to measure it, and then I'm just going to cut it in half, and that is going to be what I place at the top of my scrapbook pages. All right, so now I'm going to officially put them across the top, and I'm pretty particular when it comes to like actually laying out my scrapbook pages, so I do fidget a lot with them, which is why I don't actually record a bunch of them because it takes me forever. I did know that I wanted to use this tag, which is one of the punch outs from the designer series paper, and I kind of pulled it in, and all these little punch outs are cute. None of them really have anything to do with dogs. So I'm just pulling out the ones that I think will work as far as like maybe some greenery. And there is a little heart that I end up really liking. It's a circle, and it kind of reminds me of like dog print and then a heart in the center. And then there's these little scallop pieces here that I really liked too. It does take me a while to figure out where to incorporate those, but I do eventually figure it out. So I'm pulling in this little heart tag as well. It's it's like a little banner, and I loved it. I know there's no blue whatsoever that you can see as of right now, but I do end up pulling in a little bit more blue later on too. And then I pulled in these little pieces, and you'll actually see I don't even use those. But again, I'm just pulling out what I think I can use so that it's easier to kind of put things together and rearrange them. And I keep going through kind of figuring that out, just different pieces. And I'll even go back later and pull some more. So anyway, so I think I've got what I can kind of use now. There's the little heart piece that I fell in love with. And now I'm going to do a little bit more fidgeting with the layout because, again, it's one of the main reasons why I don't typically record. But I really wanted to show just how my brain works with putting scrapbook pages together. So I'm starting here. This is going to be one of my main clusters, and I thought that I would stick it down in the bottom left of what I'm going to have as my title page. Nah. So just fidgeting, kind of figuring out where I want these pieces to go. Again, everything is going to change a little bit before it's all said and done, but I just wanted you to see the process of kind of where my brain goes and how it starts and then kind of where it finishes. So I just kind of keep fidgeting with these pictures on where to place them as far as the layout goes. And again, it's going to change a couple more times before I figure it out. But I knew that I kind of wanted that blue heart to go somewhere, and I just wasn't sure where it wanted to go. And then one thing with these borders here, I do not want the ends to technically show. I want it to look like it's kind of flowing into a picture or whatever. And so I did bring the pictures down a little bit to kind of cover those. And I'm starting to bring in some of the other pieces just to try them, see where they could look appropriate, I guess, or just kind of fit into the layout. This one I'm actually going to cut in half, and I end up putting it in two different places on the card base, or on the card base. On the scrapbook pages, and then of course that will again change. But anyway, I cut it in half because I would rather have smaller pieces that I can kind of tuck up underneath the photos instead of a whole piece and you're kind of wasting one whole half of it. So I'm tucking all of these pieces up underneath because again, I really like this tag, but I do end up taking it all away. I wasn't quite sure having two of the tags was necessary. I felt like it even added a little too much of the flowers instead of just having a little hint of it. So you'll see I actually take and just remove it all. So here I'm just kind of really overviewing and thinking it needed something else, and of course it did. So I pulled in two garden green 12 by 12 pieces of cardstock, and then I brought in just a sheet. It was just a scrap that I had of basic beige, and what I'm going to actually do is cut down, and you can see here, I cut down the basic white, the designer series paper, and I put the basic beige along the bottom there. And then I put those tags that I had beside the pictures, I actually tucked them into the edges of the layout of the basic white. I didn't end up liking that, so it will go away too. I pulled in this Exploring Nature stamp set, and I really liked the big sentiment that says it's a great big world out there. And for Maggie, it really is a great big world. And so I fidget on kind of where to put the sentiment as well. And you'll see that that even changes. Again, I'm very finicky about my scrapbook pages. So I liked kind of where it was there, but then I felt like the pictures just were too off from each other. So here I swapped them, and then I'll come to my senses in a little while and figure out that no, I shouldn't have swapped them because Maggie is looking to the right, and so that really doesn't need to be on the outside of the page. It needs to be or on the right side. It needs to be on the left side so that she's looking in toward the pages and not out of the pages. I had moved the scallop pieces up top there, so I moved those. I took out the little heart thing again. Again, we're starting kind of over from scratch. I have the basic layout, but I've put the pictures back to where they were because one of the photos is she's inside, the other is that she's in the sunroom. So I felt like that one kind of lone picture of her being in the living room looking out the big window needed to be on that far right side. Then I swapped it again, but you'll see that that picture does go back. I'm pretty sure I'm doing a voiceover for the video now. So one thing I did want to kind of point out to you as well is you can see my hand is moving underneath the designer series paper. When I adhere those down, I don't put adhesive on the top edges so that if I needed to tuck something in, I can still do that and have no problem with it. I don't have to pull up the paper. I did it for the top as well. So I do it along the edge, the bottom edge or the very top edge, but I don't do it on the edge that opens up to the actual page where the pictures are. So now I'm moving the long basic strip up to the top. I've moved my sentiment all the way to the left because I want it to be more of a focal point when you first start looking at the pages like you would from a book from left to right. And then I have now taken the pieces of the scalloped, I've cut them down so that they'll actually run along the whole bottom. And you'll see there, I moved the picture so you could kind of see. So both of the pictures where she is looking in, or one's looking at me while I'm taking the picture and the other's kind of watching one of the squirrels go by. So there's that. And then I did stamp a bunch of the squirrels. I've colored them. I punched out and then I also fussy cut some out. And I did the stump as well. So there's that. I don't end up using the stump on the left, but I did on the right. And then you'll notice here, the one I'm holding up, I ended up using Stampin' blends for the body or the little belly part. I didn't end up liking it. It was too much of a contrast with the stamping and the blends all in one, and so I left it alone. But I wanted to add a little bit of splatter to it, so I pulled in that Swirled Design stamp set, and which is the whole reason I bought the stamp set was for the splatter for putting on scrapbook pages. So I am going to now just take and start stamping the splatter, but also put some borders around all the pictures. And I'm doing the gray granite, which is what we'll stamp the splatter in just a minute. Now, when I do my pictures onto the mat, I don't get all the way to the edge and I don't go from one end to the other. I just do a little bit so that, again, if I wanted to tuck anything up under the actual picture itself, I have the ability to do that. Once your pages go into the page protectors, you don't have to worry about those things falling off. That adhesive will stay. So it's not something I worry about. So now I'm going to stamp. Now that I've got those mats down, I can better see where to do our stamping. So I'm going to stamp a whole bunch of the splatter around the pictures in different areas. Okay, so now I'm going to try to kind of figure out how I'm going to do the squirrels, and I know that I want to do the sentiment, but I don't want to stamp it down on the actual page itself. So I did stamp it on basic white, and I used the dies that are called, and I've just drawn a blank, Everyday Arches. And then I did a white one, and then I also did it with the gray granite, but I stamped it with my new positioner tool so that I can make sure that it was really dark black. And then there are the dies that I used. I used 2 different sizes. Now, the next thing that I did at that point was, okay, now I want to attach the white piece to the gray granite. And then, of course, I put it on crooked because that's the way my life works sometimes. So I had to take it off, and I left this part in so that you could see that sometimes I don't always get it straight. So I had to take it all off, and then thankfully I didn't have to restamp it. But I was able to kind of get it fixed once I did take the whole thing off again. And then I just had to smooth it out. Because sometimes when you pull them off, it makes your, paper a little scratchy. So I added a little bit more glue just to kind of make sure those edges stayed on. And then here, I'm going to actually add dimensionals to it so that it's a little above all of the embellishments that I'm going to attach around it. And I did land on putting that cluster on the right side page. I did end up with that. I add a couple more things later on, but that was pretty much kind of the design I wanted for it. Again, I'm going to start fussing with this heart piece again. And, I feel like it has to be used somehow, some way. And I know there's no blue in it, but for whatever reason, I just felt like that blue really did help stand some of, just those embellishments out a little bit more. So I cut it down there because I don't need the whole flag part of it. And then I do end up making the decision that I'm going to attach it, but it will move again, I promise. But thankfully, when I do the adhering on my scrapbook pages, I don't put a whole lot of adhesive on it, especially to start with, because I know that I do move things around so much. So this is kind of where I landed for this, and then I'm gonna kind of step away from it for a while, and then I'll come back and look at it a little bit more. And then here I did decide, once I stepped back for a few minutes, that I wanted to add another sentiment over on the right page. And this one says best day ever. And I love that sentiment. And so I'm going to put it right above that page. And I'm going to use my positioner tools just to make sure that I get it right. And you'll see in the background, I have a little bit of contraband. Stampin' Up! Doesn't have these mats, these 12 by 12. Well, technically they're like 13 by 13 mats. Here I moved everything out the way, and I'm using my scissors. This is a little tip. I'm using my scissors to help straighten up the sentiment to make sure that it's straight and exactly where I want it above the picture, because it is a little smaller. But I hope that Stampin' Up! Hint, hint, comes out with one of these 13 by 13 I call them scrapbook mats, because I use mine for all of my scrapbook pages. I think it gives it that extra little cushion underneath when you're stamping and doing things. So anyway, so I ink this up with some black memento, which is the same I did the big sentiment in. Nothing, exotic or different or out of the norm. I could have probably done it in the blue, which probably would have helped bring it in a little bit more, but I was fine with the black. And when I stamped it down, one of the main reasons why I did the positioner tool as well is to make sure that it was nice and dark. And it actually came out perfect the first time, so I was very happy with that. And then you can see my squirrel. I hadn't quite adhered some of those pieces down yet, so Another little tip, I do add adhesive to those mats in order to keep my scrapbook pages down. That always helps so that it's not constantly moving. And so now I'm going to just put my little cluster back together. All right, so I fidgeted with it a bunch. I kind of was like trying to figure out what I was going to do. I pulled in one of the squirrels, making sure that it was one that was facing toward the inside of the page. I moved the sentiment to see if maybe I would like it down below. I did not, so I'm moving it back. Again, I'm just going to fidget a little bit more with where to place the different embellishments that I want to put on there. So I'm going to kind of look at it again, step back, and you'll see that once I stepped back, I kind of figured out where I wanted things. So now I've adhered most everything down in the top section, and this is adding that little cut piece, the little cut octagon, I think is what it was. Now I can't remember. I have now attached it up below or up top. And then I grabbed a heart that was a blue and white. And so I'm going to add that over to that cluster to bring in that blue color. I also took the tag and cut the bottom off of it. And if you look at the cluster right there above, you'll see that I put that blue in there too. But if you look at the tag, then you're going to see that I cut and put it under one of the photos. Now I've brought in some pots and stuff too that have the blue flowers or blue leaves on it so that it would kind of bring in blue down below for that cluster underneath that picture where she's laying on the floor, which is kind of where her favorite position is. She likes to be right by that door. I guess because if we let her out, then she's ready to go and get all the squirrels, although they're much quicker than she is. So in this cluster down here, I do end up adding a blue leafy pot image from the Designer Series paper pack to just kind of pull in the blues again. So here, then I'm going to start kind of fidgeting and fussing with the top part. I like the layout, so I'm going to start adhering them down. I made the decision that I just needed to stop fussing. I really try not to do complicated pages, and the layouts are not necessarily complicated, but sometimes it's just putting the clusters together that I fidget with way too much. Sometimes I just need to stop. So I end up adhering another one of those little blue leafy pots there, and I'm tucking it down so you're not actually seeing the pot itself, you're just seeing the leaves from it. So it kind of adds in that blue, the blue color. And then here's the other half of the little label thing that I had adhered earlier that I'm fussing to get to go down because I noticed it went all the way down over there. And then I'm using the sentiment to make sure that my placement is good. And I don't typically do this either, but on this one, I did put the cluster, the embellishments, all of that completely around the top of the sentiment. Typically I just kind of put it like in one corner of it, but this one I wanted to go all the way around. So now I do have a dog punch that I could have used and done some dogs instead of squirrels, but I really felt like she's chasing squirrels, and that's kind of the story here. These are the pictures that we've gotten with her watching them, and so I felt like the squirrels played a better role for this one. So I put the big sentiment down now, and I kind of take this and fuss. It was just a piece I had left over, so I just kind of try it in other places, see if it works, and it doesn't, so I kind of toss it back to the side. I feel at this point that I really do kind of have it completed, but it's missing something. And so I kind of stepped back for a minute to figure out what it was. And of course, I figured it out pretty quickly. It was embellishments. So I used these embellishments, and these are the earthy matte dots. And so I used the blue color in there, which I think might actually be cloud cover, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So I added it in a couple spots. This spot here is not where it needed to go, or that one is fine. This one that I put down at the bottom, I end up having to move it, and you'll see why in a second. But I felt like this just kind of added a little bit more of that blue to it, even though it has a lot of the green. But I feel like the blue pulls it in kind of and ties everything together with these embellishments. So the next thing, once I get all of these embellishments on, is that I realized I never put on my actual journaling. So I came back, wrote my journaling. The lines that I used are from the Just a Note stamp set, and then I just adhere this down to the bottom. It's nothing, it's not long journaling, it's just straight to the point. I just wanted the year and what she's doing. So I adhere that right underneath those leaf parts, and then it is a complete scrapbook double layout for Maggie. I really enjoyed putting this one together, and I enjoyed using the squirrel bundle because it's one of my favorites. So here I'm just going to show you kind of a close-up of all the different sections of the 2 pages. There's that little label I cut the bottom off of and put it down there just to kind of bring it back in. And there we go. That's it. So simple layout, not a lot, just more fussing on my part. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.